welcome to Glue. Our special guest tonight is Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, it's round two. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Marty. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you.
Right on.
So what would you like to talk about tonight?
Well, again, there's many things to talk about. People write me, whether it's on Facebook or if it's on YouTube. I actually got about a 5-paragraph review from somebody on the show that we did last week.
Really?
And I didn't forward that to you because I'm a computer moron and I'm not sure how to do it from YouTube to your account. But basically, it was about a 5-paragraph review on how straightforward and honest it was, and a look at religion and other things. And so I've also got quite a few people asking me about stuff like vampires, the vampire culture, goths, the goth culture, and of course the Anunnaki and the Nephalim and all kinds of stuff, because the original show that I did, After Dark with Dr. Mike and Exploring the Unexplained with Dr. Michael Coots, had a lot of weird stuff, and people were really interested in it. And after they heard the show that we did, they kind of tied it all back together and said, you know, talk about this stuff. And I know tonight we just had about a 2.5-hour conversation on some crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Insane crazy stuff. And so, again, I think it's just going to be a loose ball in the park. Just let it flow where it go.
Let's see where it goes.
All right, man. Well, we had originally discussed talking about the Nephilim and the Anunnaki, which kind of one of them ties back to the Bible and one doesn't.
Well, yeah. But considering that the Nephilim is a Hebrew word for the fallen ones, it kind of does tie in, really. Well, one is the Anunnaki are it's pre-biblical. So
it goes back to Samaria and before Samaria.
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of the stuff that you see in the Bible, like the deluge, comes from the stuff from Mesopotamia.
Yes, it does. Like we talked last time, the flood theory, the flood myth, which now several scientists claim they've proven there was a flood, which I'm sure there probably was. Origins unknown, but yes, it goes back to many books that were written before the Bible, yes. And they talk about the Nephilim being like you said, the fallen ones, in which demons and humans mated and created giants. It's some pretty wild stuff.
Which takes us into the Book of Enoch as well.
Yes, which very, very conveniently was taken out of the Bible.
You know, anything that has anything to do with giants, red-haired giants, prehistorical kind of large, powerful entities, it just kind of vanishes, just goes away. Any sort of anything that comes up, it's a blip on the radar, and then it just kind of whoosh, it's gone.
Well, it is actually an applied theory, like you just said. It was just a few years ago in the country of Georgia, which used to be a province or captured company of Russia. Some scientists that were doing research in some of the primitive areas found skeletons, human remains that were, I think the smallest one was 9 feet tall, and the tallest was 12 feet tall. And they took pictures and measurements and samples and a few bones, and then they went to go back to find more, to look for more, to do more, and they were met by the Georgian army and said that area was now closed. No one of any rank or from any position was allowed to go there anymore. So when the soldiers left, they went anyway. And they found that the cave had been sealed with a bar type of a closure that had several locks on it and military symbols, and only certain military scientists were then studying these bones, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the first question that comes to mind is, why did the government, the military, want to hide this discovery and hide the remains that were still there? I'm sure it probably had something to do with DNA testing, create his army of giants. I don't know. Theories are rampant on this, but it happened. It was real. And then they were barred from doing any further investigation.
Well, not only that, but I don't know if you're familiar with a case that happened up in Minnesota not that long ago. An individual was plowing his backyard and came across some bones. And the bones that he found were rather huge. And they had the, what's the society that they have come out? It's the... It's
paleontologists?
And they had the anthropologists, the state anthropologists, come out and look at the bones and everything else. And what they did is they reburied them after taking pictures, which, by the way, they refused to show anyone. They reburied the bones and classified them as a Native American site, so that you can no longer look at those bones. But the individual whose land that they found the bones on said that the individual was at least 12 foot tall.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're talking about the forensic anthropology unit, like they started in Colorado,
right,
and Kansas and a bunch of other places, and they come out kind of a precursor to the anthropology departments and so forth, and they do a screening to see if these are new bones, if somebody was recently buried. And in cases where they find that they're ancient, then they turn it over to the archaeological dig people. And what better way to hide it than to say it's a holy ground?
Right. In fact, this person was forbidden to dig up those bones, even though it's on his own land, his property.
Typical.
So technically, it's not his property anymore in that spot.
Well, now, these were supposedly bones of what we would call, or what other people would call, the Nephalim, the cross between the first of the fallen from heaven and human beings, which doesn't make sense to me, because the first of the fallen would have been pre-Genesis type stuff, and there wouldn't have been any human beings. So where did they come from? What were they doing? Which kind of opens the door to talk about the Anunnaki, which in ancient Sumeria, they were averaging around 9 to 10 feet tall and allegedly could consume human beings, either psychically or blood or in body. And these were the precursors to what we would call vampires. So take it away, Marty.
Yeah, it's kind of odd for sure, especially... Well, that doesn't surprise me at all, considering that any of the recent sightings that you hear about, actually, they're very tall. They're above like 8 foot tall.
Yep.
They've got red hair. They're not very attractive. They smell really, really bad, and they've got 2 rows of teeth.
Wow. That sounds like some people I know. No, seriously. Yeah, these were like, it's hard to really explain unless somebody really studies or gets into it. These were allegedly beings from another world, whether that was an interdimensional world or an off-world world, that came and taught them all kinds of stuff. And in return, they could kind of munch out on the people that were not important to them.
Now, where did the Anunnaki come from?
Allegedly, they were an interdimensional people who came through, what people would call rifts or doors, or they were from extraterrestrial, other planets.
Now, didn't, according to, what was his name? He was an individual that had written some books about it. What was his name? I'm trying to think.
You're talking about Dr.
Sitchin.
Yeah, he wrote several books.
Right, Sitchin, it was his name. And he was talking about that there's a planet that comes around and comes into the Earth's proximity every, 100,000 years or so.
And it's called Nabu?
Nibiru?
It might be.
Nibiru.
Okay, Nibiru. I haven't really read a lot about that or studied a lot on that particular thing, about that particular planet, because I would feel that NASA and other agencies, European Space Agency, the Japanese, the Russians, would probably have a little more information. And then it kind of dawned on me, if they did, they sure as hell wouldn't tell us.
Oh, you mean like the extra solar planets that we have, and now they're saying, oh, well, yeah, you've got more planets than what you thought.
Yes.
But then Pluto isn't a planet. It's
right.
Wait.
It's a gas giant. So, yeah, I guess now they're saying that there's like 12 planets in our system, and a couple of the ones that we call planets are actually gas balls and a whole bunch of stuff. And then the one moon, that's the largest moon in the entire solar system, they're now classifying that as a planet. It must be nice to have a job like that.
Yeah, you could just
do anything you want, basically.
Why don't we start doing that?
Yeah, we could go to NASA and say, oh, the moon is actually a little planet that circles ours, because the Chinese space agency claims that there's moon bases on there, and they won't give us any idea where those bases are from, whether they're American, Russian, or extraterrestrial. And then some people from NASA who retired said that they were extraterrestrial. So it's so damn confusing and so mind-boggling and so very well kept a secret that I don't think we'll ever know the answer.
No, probably not. Probably not. But what's really odd is that a lot of people have been talking about CERN getting started again. And they were talking about that CERN may be responsible for opening doorways and gateways, and how there's real high strangeness occurring right after they do these CERN particle shots that they do.
Well, explain to all of our lovely listeners out there exactly what you're talking about.
Well, CERN is a large particle accelerator.
Yes.
And the whole idea behind a particle accelerator is to where you absolutely speed up these atomic particles, and you smash them together, and they make subatomic particles, which you can measure. And then what you do is you take these subatomic particles, you speed them up, and then you smash those together, and then it breaks them into smaller pieces, which you then observe and see what's going on with that. And then you take those smaller particles and you smash them into each other, and you break those apart to see what it's all made of and why they're doing it. They say that it's to find new power sources, new something or another. But they're also saying that they're making these very unstable black holes for a moment, and that these black holes dissipate very quickly. Now, some say that they don't dissipate, that you have these very dense objects created in this process, and they actually fall to the core of the earth, and they cause interesting things to happen, like earthquakes, which have been measured right after these CERN tests.
Well, they also, in the world of what some people would call applied science physics, or applied astrophysics, I guess, that they are creating doorways. Einstein and Oppenheimer and a bunch of the other great physicists had talked about the dimensions. I watched the thing with Stephen Hawking, and talking about the multiple universes and the interconnected universes and doorways from one to another. Some say they could be heaven, some say they could be hell, some say they could be us in different forms that exist. It's just a pretty awesome, mind-boggling thing to think about, but they claim that some of these tests are creating that type of stuff.
Well, some people are actually now saying, and I don't, far be it for me to know whether or not this is true. I mean, in this universe, pretty much anything is possible. If you can imagine it, it's possible. But there are some people that are saying that CERN is creating doorways in which other things can come through.
Yes.
Which falls back into the whole Anunnaki, Nephalim kind of theme tonight.
Well, how about the ley lines? The ley lines that cross the earth, where they are truly, this isn't even science fiction, this is science fact, where on these particular ley lines there's such an unbelievable amount of energy and magnetic force that things happen. Things that even the military and other agencies that study it call paranormal. And in these things, they say there are, in fact, there's a game called the Rift War Sagas, and a book called the Rift War Sagas, which actually was now 8 different books. It's a story, sci-fi story, fantasy. But it's based on these facts that were found in these ley lines, in the study of the ley lines, that doorways open and there could be two-way travel. And that's why so many of these areas where they come to the highest point are considered restricted areas, and only government and military can have anything to do with them. And I do believe that there is something that is there. And if we go all the way back to, let's say, when you first really started hearing about the Anunnaki, to ancient Samaria, when we didn't have atomic power plants, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have any of those things now that can interfere with the atmosphere, no radio waves, no TV waves, no computers, no Wi-Fi, none of that stuff. I imagine that those particular areas were considerably stronger.
Right.
You know, because they had nothing to interfere with their function.
Right.
And I've often wondered, well, maybe those were the doorways in which these creatures, even in India and the Vedas, they talk about these creatures coming in aircraft and flying through the air and shooting missile type things that created massive atomic type explosions. In the Bible, it clearly describes landing craft coming out of the sky in front of shepherds, in front of other people. And it's just too much put together to say that there's not some truth to this.
No, that's... From what I've seen too, there's that place that you're talking about that's described in the Vedas. They've actually found a site, and that site is still radioactive to this day, and it also has trinitite at that site.
That's not even found on Earth, is it?
Trinitite?
Yeah.
No, trinitite is the green glass that you get as a result of a nuclear or atomic explosion.
Right, my family was at White Sands Missile Range in the late 1950s, early 1960s, and they used to encourage people to go out there to collect it. Of course, the half-life is over 6,000 years, so you're picking up radioactive stuff. But yeah, we used to see that all the time. It was unbelievable. It would just turn the ground to glass, like
right.
Pure, smooth glass. It was unbelievable. When you said trinitite at first, I thought you were talking about little four-legged creatures. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, but I find that interesting that they're in the India-Pakistan area.
Yes.
There's actually a location that's radioactive and has trinitite.
Well, according to the Vedas, it's supposed to be some huge plain, open area ground between the mountains, in which these two apparently intergalactic forces came to battle. And one side had taken the people, the human beings of India in that ancient time, and trained them and brought them along as extra help, soldiers, techs, whatever. And the other side did not. And it became a massive battle over who was going to rule or take over or cede or settle this particular part of Earth. And allegedly the enemy, which you don't hear a lot about, were a reptilian type of being, a reptilian type of creature that fought. There's way too much, man. We could spend 5 hours just on that one thing. But if anybody have a reason to, like the Anunnaki, that's one of the things that's discussed. And there's a lot of history that goes with it to prove it. It's also talking about the Tunguska blast in Russia.
Yeah.
That has so much stuff, you know. Some people say that Nikola Tesla created that during one of his experiments. Some people say it was a black hole that struck above the Earth. And some say it was a crashed alien spacecraft. And so no one knows what it is, and there is no scientific explanation for it.
No, the best that they can come up with was an ice meteor reached critical mass above the surface of the Earth at the time. And yeah, that's, and they say that I don't know, we're weird. It's like what did they have to pull that out of, you know, to come up with that?
Well, it caused approximately 150 times more damage to the area from many, many, many miles than did the unfortunate atomic blast of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And that's pretty damn big.
Yeah, I think, what was the estimate? 100,000 square miles?
Oh, yeah. Trees and rocks and mountainsides were just devastated, flattened, completely flattened.
And it never ceases to amaze me, the explanations that they consider plausible. Well, it's plausible that, there was this meteor. Well, it's not even a meteor. It's a comet. It's an ice comet, and it traveled through our atmosphere. And as it traveled faster and faster in our atmosphere, the pressure increased and increased. And finally it got to an altitude above this forest. And once it reached that critical mass, it just blew up and exploded. And there you have it. That's what happened.
This little ice ball created an explosion 150 times more than the original atomic bombs that were dropped. That's a hell of a meteor, actually.
Yeah. Well, considering that the first ones were 20 kilotons, roughly 20 kilotons. And what is Tsar Bomba, the largest that the Russians created? Wasn't that like 5 megatons?
Oh, it's something outrageous. It's never been. I think it has been tested, actually, but it was so phenomenally strong that they decided they would never use it, though it's still in their arsenal. Well, America has one too.
Yeah, I think they have something more evil. I think it was even as early as 1977, the Guinness Book of World Records had the most powerful nuclear device on the planet. They said that the Russians had it and that it was a cobalt-salted device. And it was something that the Russians called Doomsday.
Yes. It was actually stored in a cargo ship off the shore because they didn't actually want it on the land, which, of course, if it had blown up, it would have blown up anyway. As much damage would have been done if it was on land. But yes, it was actually stored in a cargo ship off the shores of Russia, and it was called the Doomsday device. Just one of them is all it takes.
That's all you need.
So, yeah. And so when you take okay.
Don't make me. Don't make me.
I'll do it. I God, I'll press the button. But then we go back to CD players. We go back to the flat screens, the computers. We go to the heads-up display. Alan Alda, who used to do the show MASH, did a National Geographic special claiming that individuals from Area 51, United States Air Force, United States Navy, NASA, and several other agencies had met with him to do this special and said that this technology was taken from crashed alien aircraft and reverse engineered. And when you take a look at the fact that human electronics and medicine and virtually everything else advanced more in a 50-year period from the 1950s to 2000 than it had done in the last 5,000 years in the 50-year period, kind of makes you wonder where that knowledge came from.
Well, according to, Phil Corso, he said that it came from the crash at Roswell.
Yes,
well,
that
actually,
was the original one.
The crash at Corona in 1947.
Yeah. So it's hard to say. I mean, did all of a sudden mankind become out of the monkey stage and into the advanced human age in that short period of time and created all this wonderful, fantastic stuff? Or was it, in fact, reverse engineered from alien spacecraft?
Well, I really don't even know, because if you think about it, considering how far we've come in certain other areas, and just take a look at this studio that I have here.
Your studio is better than many of the radio stations I've been in.
This studio is pretty sweet, and it's this is all technology that's off the rack. This is off the rack technology, but yet, even though computer technology and wireless technology and things like that have come so far, we're still using the same engines, the same jet engines, the same internal combustion engines for the car. Now, granted, they are computerized, but we haven't really changed our method of getting from one place to another. Our method of conveyance is pretty much the same. And considering also that, well, at least the piece of technology that we admit to having, the SR-71, is still the fastest aircraft on the planet that we have, but yet that was created in the late 40s, designed in the late 40s.
Well,
And so how is that? Yeah.
Well, the Blackbird is being used by NASA now for training, and they have a new plane that looks a lot like the Blackbird, but allegedly it uses a ramjet technology, which has never before been used on anything on this planet. And they say that they'll admit it'll go Mach 7, which is unbelievable. And, you know, they do have some weird things coming out that has yet to be released. And a lot of people don't know this. I mean, I've actually talked to people who felt that, like the space station and the shuttles, you know, they were traveling at Mach 3, Mach 4. They're traveling 26,000 miles a minute. Okay? 26,000 miles a minute when they're in space. That's what they say. Now, if that's true or not, I don't know. But that's what NASA claims. That means they could actually go around the world in a minute or something to this effect. I have no idea what's true in that or what's not. The only thing I know that NASA did come out with originally was that the thing traveled at 16,000 miles an hour. Now, that would be a little more believable, but still that's ungodly fast.
Right.
If it went past you, you really wouldn't even see it. 26,000 miles a second, that sounds a little bit...
That's faster than a bullet. That's a lot faster than a bullet.
Oh, yeah. That's... no, I don't buy that. But I believe they could go 16,000 miles an hour because there's nothing up there to give resistance. You know, look it up, Google it, tell me. But, yeah, there's all kinds of strange things that are going on right now in research, especially in aircraft that's supposed to be coming out in the next few years or whatever. But, you know, allegedly, according to text, a lot of this stuff did in fact exist, again, in ancient Samaria. It's like ancient Samaria was the like the starting point of where we are now, actually more advanced than we are now, and then it kind of all went downhill to a primitive state and then back up again. It's a very, very interesting and confusing bit of history if you really start reading it and looking at it, because they allegedly had flying aircraft, they had space vehicles. These Anunnaki could transport from one place to another, vanish one place and reappear in another, and their appetites were, of course, very bizarre, which became, again, like I said earlier, the precursor to what we call the vampire. So what's your input on that?
Well, I really don't know. I don't know, because there are so many people that say that vampires are just a legend and that they were, you know, people who were mistaken as being vampires when they actually were suffering from consumption.
That's very true. But you go back again to text to the vampire, and it goes back to Lilith, the alleged first wife of Adam, and kind of comes up from there and then takes a turn for the worse, if you will, with the Sumerian culture. And so, who knows? I don't think that it would be impossible to say that there are, I don't want to say distorted or genetically altered or whatever creatures out there that are these things. I don't even know how I'm trying to explain this right now. I mean, what it boils down to is there could be.
Why is it so
That's what I'm trying to say, is that maybe there truly are, and they simply are not part of our culture that we would know of.
Because the same people that say, "Oh, Dr. Mike, that's such hogwash. Genetic engineering, really? Really? Weird creatures, really?" And then you say, you do realize that the Japanese are genetically engineering fish so that they can glow in the dark, right? And you can buy them. And you can buy them.
Oh my
God.
God.
How is that so ridiculous or so out of the realm of possibility when that's actually going on right now?
Well, when you talk about out of the realm of possibilities, there was one of the shows I had done in After Dark with Dr. Mike. We were talking to an individual whose grandmother was a practicing witch who had come from a long line of witches, and the summoning of demons.
A necromancer?
Thank you, necromancer, and that type of stuff. And during the show, and we're talking about, we had 3 guests. We had the engineer, and there's Gwen there doing the news stuff, and myself doing the whole show. And we started hearing a baby crying. And we all looked around like, where's this baby crying? And then a black dog walked into the room around the equipment and left and disappeared into the hallway. And every one of us were freaked out.
I know I would be.
And we were totally freaked out. And the guy that was talking about it, his grandmother's and this raising of demons and all this kind of stuff, said that is usually a sign, is an innocent, a baby crying, and then some type of animal. So I looked this stuff up. I got into the encyclopedias,
Don't they call that a familiar?
Yes. And they are referred to as familiars, mostly cats, dogs, things like that. And I looked it up, and it was talking about the very same thing. And so I was pretty freaked out. I'd go into the studio to do other shows later, and I'd turn on every light in the building.
Wow.
And that was that strong, and we all witnessed it. We all saw it. There's no denying it. There's no smoke and mirrors. We were all sitting together, and we all physically saw it dissipate outside of the door into the hallway. It just dissipate like the Star Trek being beamed up or something. So can I explain that? No. Are there explanations for it? Yes. In other realms, there certainly is. So I cannot say, no, that doesn't exist, because I witnessed it.
Well, that's kind of odd that would happen. But, wasn't like that radio group cursed afterward, kind of?
Actually, yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about all the things that happened after that, and
yeah, they're actually
what happened to the people.
Yeah, it's actually owned by a new company now, and has pretty much all new staff. And I can tell you this, that I know for a fact, because as a forensic psychopathologist, I actually had part of this. I was actually involved in this. Fort Carson, Colorado had a hospital that had been there since World War I. And it was used all the way up until probably the 1970s. And this hospital was a very long, spread out hospital. I mean, you could walk literally miles going from one part to another. It was so spread out. And the reason they did it was they were afraid that if the enemy came, they would bomb it. And so they spread the hospitals out. Well, they built the new Army hospital called Evans Army Hospital, which looks like any other hospital, straight up skyscraper looking type of thing. And they were tearing down the old one. They were going to use it as temporary barracks for the National Guard and the reserves when they came out. But they got so many complaints from people, soldiers and medical people that were cleaning it out and removing stuff, of seeing things, hearing things, and just a lot of really bizarre stuff. And so I was asked to come out there with somebody from Schreiber Air Force Base, and that's why I was introduced what they call the Janus Project. And the Janus Project was a project in which they used quote-unquote psychics and those with kinetic abilities and those with clairvoyant that allegedly were proven. And the government were using them for certain things. They went through the whole place and said it was full of spirits. Well, I did a tour through there talking about some of the stuff, looking at it from a forensics point of view. And as we went around one corner, we looked ahead of us, and there was a red fox, a little red fox in the hallway. And we were like, oh, my God, look at this. And so everybody came, and they were watching this fox. And the fox was staring at us, and then it seemed to go through the wall, right through the wall, and disappear. And it was on a second floor. And that was one of the things that stuck in my mind. And shortly after that, they closed it. It became restricted, and they came in with a special team, and they razed it to the ground. They just bulldozed it, and they didn't take anything. They burned everything that was there, just burned it. And it was kind of an amazing thing to be part of, because here's the United States government, the Department of Defense, Department of the Army, Department of the Air Force, being so afraid of this building and what it allegedly had in it, that they razed it and then burned it and told them not to take anything out of it anymore, leave everything where it was at, equipment and all, and just burn it. Now that's bizarre. I mean, that's like, modern day science saying, but the only cure for it is to tie it to a stake and burn it, or beat it with a brass rod till the demon comes out. So, yeah, it's very much alive, and it's very much real in our society today, even in the highest levels of government and military.
Absolutely. I mean, wasn't Project Stargate part of that? That whole, a lot of people think that it was just a movie, not realizing that it was a real thing.
Yeah.
That Men Who Stare at Goats, that was a real thing. They actually had a team of people to do that. They actually got people together and tried to kill goats with their minds.
Yes. There are several projects. I think the Janus project is still there, still active. And then the Farsight project, which was to try to look into other countries and other politicians around the world's minds. Then there's the Dreamweaver project, which is no longer around. And then the Stargate, I don't know if that's still around or not because that was so classified. And then the goat deal. And yes, and these are all projects of the Department of Defense.
Yeah, for something that, nobody really believes in or has no merit to it whatsoever, they sure poured a lot of money into it.
But Canada, England, Germany, France, the United States of America, Russia, China, all have military books that are called FMs, fill manuals, and they have a number, FM 200, FM 300, FM 301, whatever. Every single country that I just listed, and some others, have how to respond to a zombie outbreak. It's not a joke, it's for real. How to deal with vampires, werewolves, and other things. In fact, matter of fact, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the FBI have those very same books, how to deal with paranormal entities. And if they're called on a case in which somebody says, oh, this looks like a vampire. And these are real books. These are real things they're trained on. Special groups, special ops in these particular areas in these many, many countries. And when you start thinking about a zombie manual, what to do, then you have the zombie group in St. Louis that does all the police and paramedic and fire training. They're called the Zombie Squad. And that's a real uniformed entity that's out there. And then you have the thing that happened in China and in Miami, Florida, and in several other cities in which, remember a few years ago, the CDC got involved. 2 police officers come across a man laying on the ground, and there's a naked man on top of him eating his face, biting into the flesh of the face, pulling it off, chewing it up, and swallowing it. The police got out of their car, told him to get off the guy. The guy was obviously dead. And this quote-unquote man who was eating this other man looked at them and continued to eat, and the officers approached him. He jumped up. The officer shot him 4 times in the chest. He did nothing. He kept coming. Shot him once in the head, and he went down. And then it happened about 11 or 12 more times in Miami. And then it happened in several other cities, and reporters were getting involved. The CDC was getting involved, and all of a sudden they froze it. There's no more news reports on it, nothing, and then it started happening in China. And the exact same thing happened, except, of course, there, soldiers respond to that type of stuff, and what they call police soldiers, part of the military. And, of course, about 20 AK-47 rounds in the head will pretty much stop anything. But these things were actually happening. These crazed, non-responsive human beings eating the flesh of other human beings. And that's when all the stuff came out about the zombie manuals and the zombie training and all that type of stuff. So why, if this is not real, are they training for it? Why are they prepared for it?
Well, just in case.
Just in case. So there must be some validity to it. It must have happened at one point.
Well, either that or, as someone once told me, when you have a bag of hammers, hammers want everything to be nails.
Yeah, that's very true. But also, getting involved in some of the stuff like we were talking about tonight, this really doesn't apply directly to it, but it is a kind of a cautionary thing. Is a famous, it'll come to me probably after the show, once said, Larry Niven once said, the only thing worse than throwing shit at a man with a loaded gun is standing next to a man throwing shit at a man with a loaded gun. And so when you take that particular principle, you get a little too close to it, and you're going to get burned.
Oh, yeah.
You know, these things do happen, okay? And if you get involved and do the show like we were talking about doing, things can happen. And sometimes they're not very pleasant things. You might be an innocent bystander telling the truth of what you know, what you saw, what you've been told, what you have proof of, but you're going to be the one that catches the bullet, not the one that threw the shit.
Oops, collateral damage.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I don't think it'd be collateral damage. Collateral damage is accidental damage. This would be we meant to do it damage.
You were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right.
Now you got to go.
Yes. And I believe it wholeheartedly that these things have happened, can happen, and do happen. Whether you're talking about zombies, whether you're talking about, you know, vampires, or people who are convinced they're vampires, werewolves, people who are convinced they're werewolves, whatever they may be. You know, I know a person who says that they're direct descendants of Vlad the Impaler, the Dracula of Romania.
Right.
And they're convinced of it. I've talked to them many times, and they'll tell me straight up, oh, yeah, you know, I have desires to do this, and I'm thinking to myself, no, that's just more like being disturbed.
Yeah,
you know, it need a little help maybe, but they're convinced of it, and what they would do to that point, I don't know. You know, I have no idea.
Well, there are just some interesting people out there. And I think in some circles, you and I would be considered interesting as well.
Yeah, well, I'd hopefully be like the Blue Oyster Cult, take me away. You know, I wouldn't mind me taking aboard an alien spaceship and call me weird, whatever they want. You know, then I know for sure it's true.
Well, how can it not be true?
Well,
because if you think about it, how many sightings have been reported and witnessed throughout the entire world?
Tens of thousands.
There's got to be something to it, not just in UFOs, but anything paranormal, anything extraterrestrial. Well, maybe it's not extraterrestrial. Maybe those UFOs are from here. We don't know. Maybe it's interdimensional. But,
yes.
But considering so many people have seen these things, whether it be ghosts or
Mothman.
Exactly. There's got to be something to it. What it is, who knows? But there's more to our universe than we can possibly even imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that. I know there's a Mothman. We played cards together. He beat me. I let him beat me. I was afraid of him.
Yeah. What card game did you play?
We played poker.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was a real scary dude.
Yeah, I bet he has an amazing poker face with those red eyes.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And, you know, being the Mothman prophecy type thing, he pretty much knew what I had in my hand anyway, so it kind of sucked.
Right.
And those of you who believe that, email me. Yeah. But, no, there's all kinds of things out there that people have seen and alleged photographs of. The only thing that I find difficult is Bigfoot, since, like, everybody from top engineers to the most base redneck has gone out looking for Bigfoot and never found so much as droppings or a real footprint. I kind of doubt that one.
Well, I don't know. It's an awful lot of land to cover, and it's an awful lot of expertise that would be required to find an animal that is good at hiding from you. Because think about it. You're in its territory, and it doesn't want to be found. Think of this. How many of these people go out there and stumble upon bears?
Well, I've actually done that. Stumbled upon a bear, scared the hell out of me.
Yeah. But it's not that many. You have to really try pretty hard.
Or in my case, my brother and I were way up on Rampart by Pikes Peak and way up in the mountains. And we're just walking along a deer trail. And we turned a corner, and there's a huge black bear looking at us. We're looking at it, and we backed up, and he ran away. You know, for a few seconds there, though, it was pretty scary.
Oh, I bet.
But I can honestly say it really happened. So, yeah, I'm one of those few people that have actually run into that, you know.
Because usually to see bears out there, you have to know where they are. You also, the only other time that you'll really be able to see them is when they're hungry and their food supply is gone, so they'll come down, like during droughts and things like that. But when times are good, it's very difficult. You have to know what you're doing to go find them.
Well, you can also find bears if you go to San Francisco and you go into like the Castro or the Tenderloin or any of those large bars. You can find lots of bears gathering in there.
Well, I think that's a whole nother definition.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But if you have an animal that is cognizant of you and it doesn't want you to know it's there, you're not going to know it's there.
Well, especially since they're naturally camouflaged.
Right.
They could be there within feet of you and you wouldn't know it.
Because how long did they search for the mountain gorilla? They searched for it and they thought it was a myth, and it wasn't until the early 1900s did they realize
that was like 100 years they looked for that.
Yeah. And there it was. They finally found it. The coelacanth they thought was extinct for millions of years. And then, whoa, they found one.
Well, not only did they catch one, but over the years following it, they caught 173 of them. So there was a lot of coelacanths still around, and that's just the ones that were caught, that were dumb enough to get caught, as the tuna fisherman says. So these coelacanths were, in fact, fossilized remains of animals from millions of years ago, and lo and behold, they're catching them live in the rivers in Africa, and it might be up to over 200 now. So obviously there is a population, and it's a sustainable population, and they've been around for a long time.
Right. So,
that, again, proves that some of these quote-unquote monsters that are out there are still around.
Oh, yeah. And, what cinched it for me about Bigfoot? It's like, yeah, you can't find it. Yeah, there's some film. Yeah, could it be a guy in a suit? Maybe. Don't know. You've got just as many people say it's not a guy in a suit who are educated as you do who say it is a guy in a suit.
Yeah.
But the cincher for me was when you have people making legislation that it's illegal for you to kill one, just in case, just on the possibility, the slight possibility that you actually get into a situation where you might find one, it's illegal for you to kill it.
What are you supposed to do with it to prove it? Catch it?
Well, they don't want you to. So,
well, then no one will ever know.
Well, and that's why you have the instances where there have been people who have said they've actually killed one and are afraid to show you because they don't want to get hauled off to jail.
Wouldn't admission of doing such be enough to get you into trouble?
Yeah, I think so. And if you think about it, what if you actually did kill a Bigfoot? I mean, and it looked like a person. And it was more a person than it was like a gorilla. To where, you're like, oh man, is this just somebody who didn't shave for a while? And is that murder? And would they try you for murder?
Well, it could very well be it was a hunter, and he shot another hunter, and I got a Bigfoot, went over and said, oh my God. It could be something as simple as that too. But yeah. I don't think I'd be stupid enough to tell anybody.
But just saying, I can think of a few reasons why they haven't gotten one yet. You never know. You never know. Well, he's just really tall, but he sure looks human to me, which goes back to Nephalim.
Well, that would be a tall, human-looking thing. The Anunnaki was supposedly very, like you said, very frightening-looking, very pale, had a very pungent, strong odor about it. But the Nephilim were just like big people.
Which is why they call Sasquatch in some areas the skunk ape.
The skunk ape?
Yeah, because it has a very bad smell.
Well, wait a minute. If they've never seen one...
Well, they've seen it, and...
Then they smelt it.
Yeah. And that's down in Louisiana...
Well, maybe they just scared the poop out of it, whatever it was.
Somewhere in Florida, I believe. But yeah, they call it the skunk ape.
Now, if you want to talk about Florida, on a sideline here, Florida has over 500 apes living in the Everglades. There's over 10,000 boa constrictors. There's over 10,000 pythons and large anacondas, because these are things that were pets at one time or zoo, and that got out. So they actually have a huge ape population in the Everglades, and they have a huge giant snake populations in the Everglades, and they even have some big cat populations along the lines of not just the pumas and the bobcats and the lynx, but there's also been some lions and tigers that people said, I can't keep this anymore and let it go. So Florida is pretty crazy wild. I think you can pretty much find just about anything in Florida, in the Everglades and through there.
Florida's just kind of out there in general.
Well, 60, 70 years ago, you'd go down and say, oh, look at the alligators or look at the little snakes. Now it's like, hey, look at all those monkeys up in that tree and the apes. Oh, look at that, 20-foot anaconda that's curled up over that deer over there. The Everglades has become a whole new habitat. I mean, even the people that live down there say it's pretty scary.
Well, didn't Michael Crichton say life will find a way?
Yes, absolutely true. And they've certainly found a place in the Everglades. So I think you could probably find anything you were looking for.
Wow, that's like a show in itself, just to see what kind of animals are there.
Let's go there.
Take a camera crew and see what kind of animals are out there.
When we start our podcast, we'll do one from go down there and do something like that. And I can say, and as we notice now, the 32-foot anaconda has Marty in a complete lock. He seems to be squeezing. Marty's trying to say something. I can't quite make it out. There he goes. He's starting to swallow him now.
Oh, yeah. And there goes Marty.
And that was probably one of the best snake vores we ever caught on camera. Yeah, wow, cool. Hey, light up, guys. This is like a really special day. Marty just got eaten by a snake. Jesus Christ. It's true, though. I mean, we could actually do something like that. And what's this hotel here, the Crags or whatever, that's supposed to be haunted? People from all over the world has come to do investigations there.
The Stanley Hotel?
That's not the Stanley. It's the Stanley Hotel is one of them, yes. But this is something called like the Crags or something.
I haven't heard about it. Tell me about it.
I know very little about it. When I did After Dark with Dr. Mike on the radio, almost every paranormal group that did investigations, they'd tell me all about their investigations and stuff, and every single one of them went there. And so there must be something to it. I personally never went there because of the fact that, I wouldn't do it without a crew to do a show. I really would have no business being in a place that's allegedly that hauntedly possessed, running around going, oh, maybe something will get me and I'll have a good show. Nah, it doesn't work that way,
Why not? That'd be an awesome show.
Yeah, if I had a crew, I'd go by there by myself to see, what is this really like? And, what happened to Dr. Mike? Don't know. Kind of disappeared on us.
I think we should do that. One of the previous guests, Charlie McMullen.
Yeah.
Charlie, you've got a camera. Let's go up there.
Oh, my God.
Let's do it. Let's do a show. Let's do it. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And if something happens.
And you guys be running around and go, where's Dr. Mike? Oh, he's standing in the corner like a bitch over there in the sunlight. Yeah. He doesn't want to come in.
No, don't get me wrong. I'd be right there next to you, man.
So Charlie would be doing it all, right?
Yeah.
Charlie, check out that room over there. No, further. I can't see him anymore. Where'd he go? Yeah, that'll work. Yes. I want to go someplace that's rife with devils and spirits and evil stuff. Yeah. Yeah. That'll work for me just fine. I'd have to be on something. Hey, I'll just flow through this, man, and see what's happening.
So where is this hotel?
I'd have to get more details on the next show we do together. Probably talk to Lou. She has the Paranormal Journal. It's a newspaper and an online newspaper type thing. And her name is Lou. And I'd have to get all the information from her. Because she wanted to do the show there. She come on, go with me. We'll do an After Dark. I was like, no.
No, you know what?
I don't think so.
I can actually get my studio and make it mobile, and we can do a show from any location.
Well, yes, we can do that. And, bring Charlie. Bring some extra people, too, though, so they can be the fodder. So if something goes down, we can get out.
Okay.
And just leave that and say, no, you two need to go further up there and see.
we need some bait.
We need to get this stuff out of here. So, yeah, if you want to do it, I'll do it. It's no big deal. I'll do it. We can make a good show out of it. And you want to podcast it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bring a change of clothes.
That would be awesome.
Just in case.
If they have broadband, we could actually do that live. Any chance why don't we do that this Halloween? Let's just go all out and do like a special Halloween show at this place. on the worst night that you could possibly do it. Either that or like a Friday the 13th. And then do that.
I'm game, but at the rate things are going, if we do the shows we were talking about tonight, we may not be here on Halloween. Okay? I mean, tonight's kind of a fun show. Like the last show, just talking about this, that, and the other thing. Stuff that comes to mind that's kind of interrelated. But the shows we were talking about doing tonight earlier are very specific, very accusatory type shows, which would be great shows, fantastic shows, but I'm not sure what the consequences of those would be.
Well, and the thing is that if we were to do a show like that, I'd want to have lots and lots of referenced material to go along with the show. This way, people would be able to listen to the show and actually look at the documents that we were talking about and things like that. I think that if we were to do something like that, that it should have plenty of references. This way, it would be just that much more informative.
Or we could do like Fox News and just make shit up as we go along.
Or CNN. They all make it all up.
Hey, Marty, you know about... No, I didn't hear about that because it didn't happen. But anyway, yeah.
Because Charlie was talking about, Murdoch is just evil. And it's like, like Ted Turner's a saint. Come on. It's all the same.
One radio host who snuck into Bohemian Grove and did a show that they were sacrificing a baby, and he got it on tape. Well, I physically went there. It was so compelling what this guy had said about them doing this that I actually went there, and I just went. I mean, I didn't check in with anybody. I went right to the spot, and there's a cast iron skeleton there, and it's made onto a cast iron bench type thing. And what they do is they dress it up for this little thing, this little party they have. They set it on fire. And it's like 6 feet 1 inch long. And, then finally they came down and said, what are you doing? I said, I do a radio show, and I'm interested in looking at this. And they said, this is where we do it. And they told me why they did it and everything else. And then I asked them about the guy who had snuck on there and filmed, said it was a baby. I said, how can you mistake a 6 foot 1 inch long cast iron skeleton that you dress up to be an infant? And it just turned out that this guy did a 2-hour show, just lies upon lies upon lies. And I was so captivated, like, oh my God, they do that. I'm going to go there. I'm going to see this for myself. It was nothing like he said.
Sensationalism.
It was total sensationalism. So yeah, I would like to do the things you're talking about, and I think we should actually follow through with it and do it and see for ourselves. Is this what everybody says it is, or is it not?
Yeah. Or why don't we do what you said? Just start making stuff up.
Nah, because then we'd be like people. They don't know what they're talking about. There's just a couple of dicks that's up there swinging around, not getting anything.
It's.
Like
I hate
Orson
to
Welles.
say it, but
you're talking like Orson Welles. That Mars has landed and they're destroying.
No. It just to make up stuff, because it's been my experience that people believe the made up crap a hell of a lot easier than the real stuff.
Aye, laddie, but we're talking about integrity.
That's true. And, sadly, that's what separates us from the others that go for sensationalism, the yellow journalism. And you know why they call it yellow journalism, right?
It's piss.
That's right.
It's all just a bunch of piss. But yeah, I'd love to go there.
How
and
dare you tell the truth? How dare you?
Yes, it's amazing. But I think we should actually plan it and have our listeners check it out, podcast it, see if there's any weird lights, weird sounds, weird creatures, shadows, shadow people, spirits, whatever in the hell it is supposed to be. And we can report on it.
Well, oddly enough, I think a lot of this is tied into quantum reality. If you think that it's possible, it is.
What are you talking about, Professor Science?
If you think that it's not possible, you're right. In other words, it goes back to that whole Schrodinger's cat thing. Everything is dependent upon the observer.
Yes.
Because eventually you get to the reality of it's the observer that creates that reality.
Einstein said that all things regardless what it is made up of energy. And if you focus on a certain energy, then that energy must become your reality, because there is no other way, because that energy has become your focal point. So if you want to see a ghost or a demon, you will.
Right.
If you don't, you won't.
Right.
You know? And I think if we go there with a open mind, set up cameras, and just do the thing, then what happens, happens. And we can let the people be the judge.
So with that in mind, if we go there to try and create this event,
I don't think we should try to create it. We'll just sit there and see what happens.
Are we being irresponsible because we're the ones that are actually making this happen?
No.
Is that a responsible thing to do?
No, because my energy level is so low, I couldn't possibly project that kind of energy. It's like fishing. We go there, we set everything up, then we sit back and go, well, maybe we get a bite, maybe we won't. You know, it was warm today. It was warm yesterday, but it was warmer today. You know, that kind of laid back kind of mentality.
And we sure do have a lot of beer that needs drinking.
I saw something, but it was a two-headed lizard. You know, I don't know. I think if you go there open mind, just set everything up, not even discuss it, to make the energy, just let it happen. You know, dude, just kick it and let it happen. Bring some cookies, some brownies, a pipe or two, and just let it flow.
So, to go full circle, the Anunnaki, the Nephalim,
they were scary peoples.
Is it a reality, or is it something that we ourselves created?
I believe they were a reality, because there's too much stuff throughout history, from civilization to civilization, telling same stories and descriptions and writing in their texts and drawing on their walls or their tablets, for there not to be something. You know about the what's this little thing called, the chupacabra,
right?
And then they've been looking for this thing, and those 2 Texas state troopers with 2 Texas wildlife officials chased a creature that was outrunning their Jeeps down this dirt road in East Texas, and then again in South Texas. And they took pictures from their dash cams, and they sent it to the University of Texas. They could not identify what the creature was.
Wow.
But it outrun the Jeeps, it jumped over horse fences, and it shot out through the Badlands, the desert, and had no signs of slowing down. And again, like I said, when they showed the pictures in the film, not one single biologist or wildlife expert could even describe what this creature was. So was it truly a chupacabra? Did they accidentally stumble upon one? You know, and they gave chase to it because it allegedly killed some goats and some chickens, and they were trying to say if it had rabies. And then when they got after it, like, what the hell is this thing? You know, and it's outrunning our Jeeps on this flat road. And so, yeah, maybe they found the chupacabra. So again, right back to Bigfoot, Nephalim, Anunnaki. True? I think so, to some degree, though I'm still kind of hung up on the Bigfoot thing.
Well, if there's one, there's possibly another. Because there's so much we don't know, especially with DNA. I mean, we try and explain our DNA, and we get down to it, and then they say, well, that's junk DNA. Pay no attention to that. Well, what do you mean don't pay attention to that? That's in us. How is that junk DNA just because you don't know what it is and you can't identify it?
Well, I once had a doctor, Dr. Azmi Farag, and I were discussing when I got my doctorate degree. He was an MD, and he said, despite all of our knowledge, all of our diagnostic equipment, MRIs, PET scan, CAT scans, all the blood tests we can do now, all the DNA and RNA testing, and everything else, we still know less than 30% of the whole of the human body. And that's a pretty amazing statement to make.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that means 60% or 70%. I'd add well. But, yeah, 70% is still completely unknown, unmapped. You know, a lot of diseases and stuff that they can't put their finger on. There's a reason. There's a cause. They just don't know what it is. You know?
Personally, I think it's hubris for people to say that they know more than they really do.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, they make it sound like they know everything there is to know. And I'll be the first to say, you know what? I don't know. I have no idea, and there's no way that I can know. And I know that there's no way that you can know. In fact, there's this little thing inside of our brains, and it's a coping mechanism, and it's called the illusion of knowledge.
Yeah.
And this is an actual psychology thing, because we can't cope with not knowing. We can't cope with feeling inadequate or incompetent. So there's this piece of our brain that will fake it. Well, and it's called illusion of knowledge. Google it.
Yeah, but you got to remember, I had 3 nieces, and when they were little, I think they were 4 years old, 7, and 8. And we'd sit on the balcony at my parents' place at the Broadmoor, and we'd sit there and look out over the mountains. And I'd always be sitting out there because I was usually on something. And I was just staring at the mountains, and my nieces would come and go, Uncle Mike, what's this? What's that? Or what's that? And I'd say, well, it's one of those things. Well, what things? The thing that flies. Or the thing that lives on the mountain. Oh. And they'd give me this curious look, and I'd be like, oh, yeah, I know everything. It's one of those things. One of those things, the flying thing. You know what I'm talking about, right?
It's the dealer hopper.
Yeah, and they were always like, oh, okay. And they look at me like, oh, I know you're secretly retarded, Uncle Mike, but sure, okay, we'll go with that thought, So it is. It's like the illusion. If you don't know what it is, make it up. That's a bear deer. It's a bear with horns, okay? Oh, okay, Uncle Mike. Where did they come from? Jesus, I don't know. If they come from bad people, I don't know. But yeah, you always have to have an answer, it seems, for pretty much anything that you ask or anything that somebody puts to you. You got to come up with something.
Well, it's outrunning the truck. It's outrunning our Jeep on this flat road. It's a cheetah.
Oh my God.
It's a cheetah, but it doesn't have spots. Never mind. It's a cheetah.
That's what we call a biny cheetah, albino cheetah.
That's what's going in the report. It's a cheetah.
Yeah. Oh my God. I've got to the point though, with my practice career and everything else, where I'll be the first one to just look somebody in the eye and go, I don't know. Because you get tired after a while trying to give an answer, and you say, I'll try to find out. I will do my best to give you an answer on that after I research it. But I'll tell somebody straight up, I simply don't know.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nowadays, my nieces, they're all grown. They're all grown women now. And they'll say, oh, Uncle Mike, what do you know about it? I don't know. Did you Google it? You Googled it? You didn't find out? Okay, I'll see what I can find out in medical text or something, okay? I'll get back to you.
And the older I get, the more I realize, the more I don't know.
You got that right. Oh, my God, do you have that right? It's now you just kind of look at something flying through the night air and you go, huh, I never saw that before. And go on about your business.
Right. Well, with that said, is it the end of the show?
Pretty much it's the end of the show. You got to go back and edit some stuff, which I really wouldn't be on the air. It'd be kind of embarrassing, From the beginning part, go back. Take that out, Marty, okay?
No, there's not that much that we have to edit out, really.
Well, there's some things. Some things.
All right. Well, those things that we edited out, you'll never know what they are.
That's right. That's right. And it's a good thing.
And thank you so much for being my guest tonight, and thank you for listening to Glue.
Absolutely, Marty. Thanks for having me. And I don't think I had the full energy tonight for some reason. I was kind of a little slow because there's just so much stuff. Because we had a 2.5-hour conversation before the show, and I really wanted to put that on the air. I mean, that would have been such an accusatory, wonderful show. But the consequences might have been, not so good.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Tell you what. Since you wanted to talk about it just for a little bit, let's have a teaser. Okay? Just a teaser for the show. Just a teaser. Okay, so you were saying about the Grove, right?
Yes.
And the Grove did what to the baby?
Supposedly burned him, sacrificed it.
I remember a video not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago, where they had gathered a group of, I don't know, somebodies, and they put them in a cage, and it was a large group of somebodies, and they did something to them. What did they do to them, and who are these people that did that?
Shall I answer this?
Or shall we save it for next time?
We can save it for next time, and I'll buy a bulletproof vest between now and then. So, absolutely. Absolutely.
Weird connections, wouldn't you say?
I'd say very much so. And it would be a great show.
All right.
So, till next week then?
Until next week.
Hey, laddie.
You've just listened to Glue. We'll see you next time.
Good night.